What am I working on here? Can I flexibly go up and down without having to struggle too much in the upper register? Can I make the octave jumps easily? Can I do that without too much manipulation? Can I make accents? I can make accents quickly, and it's not just like hammering something over the head. It has the flexibility to do that. But for me, it's all about function. Um, and so what I'd like to do is actually let's go through a scraping process and an adjustment process and see how we achieve all of those things. Sound good to everybody?
It sounds good.
Hey,
I'm curious, you have your two reads in your case. Do you have to mentally prepare yourself for switching from a European to a long scrape? Or I remember when I moved to Germany, it was, I tried the reads and there was no way. I was like, oh, am I supposed to play these? How do you switch in your head?
Well, I cheat because I make quite easy German reads. I don't make what, like Christoph and the guys in Berlin do. I don't make these two popsicle sticks tied together very hard. The reads that I make are actually quite flexible and quite easy for European reads. They would be considered student reads.
Okay.
Very honestly. But for me, they work, and especially, I'll tell you my thing. On modern oboe, mostly I use American scrape reeds. On English horn, I actually find that the European scrape works better because it's more stable, and I don't have to use a wire. I can just have something that's very, very stable, and they work great. And in that case, there isn't really a switch involved. It's mostly I just sort of go for it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, here's a European scraped modern. Let's see where we are with that. I hear a lot of interference. Is that on my side or somebody else's side? I hear a lot of rushing sound. I don't think it's on my side. Yeah, that's better. Okay, yeah. But so here's a European scraped. It's really not that much different. There's a little bit of more resistance, but not tons and tons. So I know everybody's pretty much muted. Jeanine, would you mind unmuting because I feel weird hearing no feedback at all?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Okay.
I think we're all just completely enthralled. So
Okay. And keep in mind, it's 8:30 in the morning, and I'm probably sound like crap, so don't listen to my playing. Just it's embarrassing playing for oboe players because we're all so attuned to what it should sound like. Okay, so let's make a read, right? So I'm going to pull out a profiler, and it actually doesn't matter which one. I'm going to start with I'll start with the KG, and then I think we'll do one on the Rieger because these are the machines that are probably the easiest to get. And the reads and stuff too, but I am having my troubles with my reads and stuff machine right at the moment. So let me get this camera adjusted.
can you describe the trouble you're having with it?
It's a little bit more finicky. If I don't tie a perfect blank, they just don't seem to scrape. And I'm having trouble adjusting the blade exposure. Something's not right. When I have time, I'll fiddle with it. Okay, let's take a blank and make a read. So I'm going to start. Here's a blank, and this is going to be a European scraped read. So here's my European template that I have mounted here. Yeah, and you'll notice that it's sort of a medium width. I think this is a Gilbert -1, and a real Gilbert -1, not the Reads and Stuff copy. And so the first thing, I'll just treat it just as I would any other read that I was going to make. The first thing I've got to do is get the thing open. So I start dry, and that's the other important thing with the profiler is you must start almost dry. If you have a blank that you have soaked, it will tear. It will not cut well on the profiler. Start with almost dry blanks. So just take a little bit of cane to get the tip open. And you don't have to be too careful, just thin it enough to get it opened. Now, a lot of people don't let blanks dry closed. I do purposely because I'm using 10 to 10.5 millimeter cane. It can be a little too open. I'm doing it on purpose because reeds collapse over time and I want to build in that extra opening. The downside is that they require more of a break-in period. Okay, so just scrape a little bit. I'm going to cut this off anyway. It isn't going to matter. Just get it open. Okay.
I have to ask you a question because I'm confused. If you let them, after you wrap them, you leave them closed because that causes them to have more tension?
It causes them to have slightly smaller openings.
Yes, that's what I, okay.
And let's get our handy dandy best machine ever. David agrees. Clip it, and I clipped it 72. You could clip it 73 if you think you're going to cut it back a lot, but that's fine. And let's go ahead and put this on the profiler. So, as I said last time, the key with the profiler is not to try to do too much at once. Go ahead and mount it so that you come up to the whatever reference line you know is good. With these, you have to play with them because sometimes you have to go past the line or before the line. Depends on the machine. I'll show you on the Reads and Stuff. I have one with 3 lines that I use. I put in. If you want to, you can take the bark off before you even do this. It'll help save the blades, but it's completely up to you. And what I'm going to do on the first pass is just work on the tip. So I'm going to go back and forth on the tip. Well, by the way, do you notice I always take the handles off these things? I always just unscrew the knob and throw it away on all the machines because I don't think you should press down at all. I think your motion should be back and forth. So I'm just going to go back and forth on the tip a little bit and get that scraped. I'm using tiny little strokes, not using big, huge strokes. That's my sort of my first pass. You see I've only done just a little bit.
And do you have the blade fairly high still? Do you readjust the blade then down for the second pass? Or?
I don't. I know Andrew does, but I don't do it. And then once I've done that, I can go back and do full passes. But I'm really not pressing down. I'm just going back and forth. Of course, this requires that the blades be sharp. Okay, so I've done the whole thing. Yeah.
It sounds almost as though you're following the same method that you would if you were scraping with a knife. That you kind of you open the tip a little bit more, then you go into the back, but with no pressure, just allowing the machine to take off the cane. So very much like you would do with a knife.
If you press in the back, you're gonna, as you move forward, you're gonna tear the tip off or tear the heart off. And you don't want that. Just let the weight of these carriages are fairly chunky. I mean, they probably weigh, 6 or 8 ounces. It's a piece of steel. It's, so I do my first pass on the second side. Up, and then all the way. Okay, now let's take a look at, I have to probably go to my other camera so you can see the backlight. Okay, let's go to the other camera. Ah, it still pops.
Ooh, ah.
That's pretty damn good, huh? For one pass, that's pretty good. Okay, now we'll adjust this in a few minutes.
Is it possible for you to get the extra stuff away, what we see on that camera?
Yeah, not really. I'm sorry.
Okay,
It's
no problem.
your camera. It's not designed. I think it gets worse if I do. Okay, that I can do.
Yeah.
Let's see what I can do here. Oh, that's too close here.
What would that read look like if you had done it completely by hand?
Pretty much the same.
Okay.
I'm happy to scrape a European scrape by hand. I can show you the method I use if you like.
Except there's no U.
I'm sorry?
You sometimes use the U form. This is
Yeah. This is a U form, but usually when I hand scrape I do W scrape.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the basic European scrape. Now what I will usually do at this point is I'll let it rest and I'll come back to it tomorrow. I'll clip it. I'll clip it off and then I'll put it back on the profiler and do another pass, is what I would usually do. And then, also just because you always miss some spots, so by going multiple times after it dries, you get better coverage, you get a smoother, smoother finish. But that's not to say that I don't do quite a bit by hand after, because I do. And I know David does too. Everybody does. These things get you about 80% there, 75% there. They don't get you a finished read. I know Cajun's whole big marketing thing is, oh, it makes a finished read. Yeah, right. I don't think so. He would like to believe that it makes a finished read. It doesn't. And Udo and Lorenzo will be very honest and say it's a 70% finished read off the profiler. You still have to do quite a bit of hand stuff. And the KG is probably closer than some. It's because the blades are sharper. The KG machine, I'll just show you, uses this wonderful little circular blade, which is like surgically sharp. It's incredible. It's instead of having a regular blade, it's basically a disc. And actually, Vic will know what this is. It's a turning insert for a carbide lathe tool that he's repurposed. It's a very, very sharp disc of metal. And when it gets dull, you loosen the screw and you rotate it. So you've got basically 360 degrees of sharpness. And when it's really dull, you throw it out and you put a new blade for $50 on there. It's not that big of a deal. On some of the other machines, it's a little bit more involved. I'll show you.
While you're getting that, I have a question for Angelica, because I think, Angelica, you're the only other person here that uses a profiling machine. How many passes do you do with your profiling machine? And does it get you, what percentage finished are you when you've used the profiler?
I think 80%.
No, that's probably about right. Something like that.
And do you do 3 passes?
You mean when I leave the read between in a rest?
Yeah, he did.
Two.
Okay.
Okay, here's the Rieger machine, or this isn't actually a Rieger, it's a solution, but it's a copy of the Rieger. And very similar, it has a different Schablone is the word in German. I love that. Don't you love that word, Schablone? It's very mellifluous. But it uses a different kind of blade. It uses basically a single bevel knife. And the advantage of the Rieger machine is you can take this thing out and sharpen it on a regular sharpening stone just like a knife. So you never really have to replace these, you just pop them out and sharpen them. And what's sort of nice about it is it's really easy. Like, it's not a big deal. You loosen the screw, you pop the thing out, you pop it back in. Um, and you can play with the exposure, but it's not as fussy as the Reeds and Stuff machine. The Reeds and Stuff machine is, you know, don't get me wrong, it's a really marvelous machine. Let me pull one out. It also uses basically a gouger blade. See, a round elliptical gouger blade. And so only the tiny, tiny little bit in the front is actually cutting. And getting that exposure right is really, it's a pain. Um, Once you get it, it's fine, but you have to waste a couple of blanks to get the exposure of the blade in and out correct. So, you know, it just depends. How much do you want to play with it? The other advantage of the Reed and Stuff machine is that the shablona are interchangeable. There are about 100 different ones you can get. This one's set up for US with and the backstop is a wide U. You can get a W1. You can get these different ones. You can see it looks a lot like an American Reed. It has a spine. It has there's my heart section. There's my back section. Let me pull out a European version of this. Well, so this is a slightly more updated version. The one I showed you was the first model from a long time ago. This is the newer one, and it's a little bit better because it has more fine adjustments. Like it has this knob where it's calibrated, and you can literally go by hundredths down for thickness. You can actually say I want it a hundredths, 200ths thicker or thinner, and dial it in, and it actually works. And here is a template for European short scrape or German short scrape. This is the number 29. I like this one. You know, again, it's pretty similar to what everybody else does. It's not all that different. The Lory, Lory for European is a good one. For US scrape, I can recommend the US5 or the Alex or the Klein are all really good. I think, Jeanine, you use US5, right?
Yeah, I haven't had much luck with the last ones that I made with that one. The other one that I have is B something.
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, it just depends what you're after. You can pick the one that you like, and you can adjust like how far back the scrape goes. What I like about this is that you really can limit this. Like most people do a 10 millimeter scrape length on a European scrape. I do a 12 because I want it to be more flexible, but that's just me. Okay, you do what you want. Okay, let's do an American profile.
Would you do it by hand?
American scrape by hand? Sure.
Yeah, everybody here does American scrape by hand. I'd be curious to see how you do it by hand.
No problem. Kind problem.
You let me put you on the spot?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm perfectly jiggy with that, as they say. Okay, let me find a blank that'll work. Okay. That's a really narrow one. This one is also a really narrow one. Let's get sort of a medium. Will that work? I tried up a whole bunch of blanks with different dimensions, and I probably should have just been consistent, but hey, I didn't do. Okay, that one will work. And I think that one will work.
Didn't you log them all carefully in your Reed journal?
Oh, right. I should have. I didn't do it, though. I was a bad boy.
Oh, everybody's laughing. They're all muted, though, so you only hear me.
No, it's, look, there are things we know we should do. When we're in a rush, we often don't do them. But
Maria caught me yesterday big time. She's like, don't you do this stepwise? And I was like, no, I taught it to you guys, but I only do it if I have to slow myself down.
Okay, I do want to finish, at some point I want to finish this European scrape that we profiled, because I want Beata to see what I do. So remind me, we'll finish this.
No, Birgit's not here. Beata is a Baroque oboist.
Oh, okay.
Birgit, I'm sure she'll watch the replay. So
Okay.
we can
So
do that.
there's nobody playing. There's only one person playing short scrape on then.
That's Angelika, yeah.
Okay, we're going to save this one for the end then. All right. So here I have my perfectly tied blanks, and they actually really are perfect. They seal. Here, let's prove it. Hear the pop? Well, it's hard to hear, but trust me, they're absolutely sealing. You do let them dry closed. Let's go ahead and open them. Now, here's another little brilliant tool. It's from Kirugi. It's a knife that uses zip blades, disposable utility blades, and you clamp them in. And when they get dull, you throw the blade away and change it out. Absolutely brilliant tool. So it's just like using a Stanley knife, except it looks like a reed knife. It's a little bit more controllable. So let's just get this thing open. And I'll tell you another trick is I work in pairs, because don't you hate it when you get halfway done and the reed cracks and you have to start all over again? And it breaks your flow of what you're doing.
Good point. Yeah.
So I always work 2 reeds at a time, because if I mess one up, or if it dies for some reason you don't know or don't expect, you don't have to stop. You continue. Okay, so I get these going. I dip them in the water, and by the time I'm ready to test, these will be good to go. Let me get some tools out here. Shifting away from the profiler.
That initial removal of the bark, you did that on a completely dry reed?
Yeah, completely dry. And again, I did 2 little U's. I did. I want to always preserve the spine, even in the tip. So I did a U here and a U here. Make sense?
Why do you leave it on the side of the tip?
I don't know. I just do. You mean, why do I leave the rail?
Yeah, on the tip area. Why do you leave the rail?
I'll take it out later. I'll
Yeah.
take it out later. It's just for convenience, really, now. I want to get this thing open. So get it thin enough where I can just open the blank. And I'm going to clip this back. These are tied. This is a Mac++ shape. Yes, that's a Mac++, and it's tied on a Kirugi 2. In this case, this is a Kirugi 2, but usually I use the 2 plus. The 2 plus tends to work better with the Howarth. It needs a little bit bigger tip, so that the left hand B and C aren't flat. If you use staples that are too small, that 1 and 1C and the B will be under pitch, and you don't want that. Now, if you're playing a Menig oboe, that's a different story. It needs that. But if you're playing a Loré or Howarth, you really need something that's pretty big. That's why I like the Glotan number 5, the Kirugi number 5 staple, or the Glotan staple. I think is a better staple than the Loré staple for the Loré. It's a better match.
Is that about the same dimensions, those two? The Kirugi 5 and the Glotin?
They're exactly the same.
But the Glotin staples are not as reliably consistent as the Kirugi, or has that changed?
That's true. They're not. So they're supposed to be the same dimension, which is why I would buy the Kirugi version, not the Glotan ones.
Mm.
Okay, so they're getting better. The other little dirty secret is a lot of Kirugi actually produces for a lot of other people.
Right.
So don't spend $6 on a Loré staple, because it is a Kirugi number 2.
I wondered about that.
And the Kirugi is €3, €2.90. So why spend the extra $2? It doesn't make any sense at all. It is produced for Loré these days by, and I talked to Ellen about this. It's confirmed.
Okay.
Whoever makes them, he's buying them, because he's got better things to do with his time than to oversee production of staples.
And have they changed since Kirugi has produced them?
They're better. They're more consistent.
Yeah. The one thing that I find with the Kyorugi tubes, and this changes from time to time, is the thickness of the walls of the
Yes,
tubes.
that is absolutely true. Okay, so now that these are open, they both pop. You can see one is fairly huge opening and one is better. I'm going to take the one that's better and put this one aside because I don't think I want to deal with that today. If I need to, I'll go back to it. Okay, so I've got my blank. It's at 72. So the first thing that I'm going to do is put in a spine. So what I do is there and there, scrape the channels all the way up from 3/4 of the way back up to the tip. Okay?
You're marking that with pencil for our sakes, right? You don't actually mark it with pencil when you're
Correct.
doing it.
It is definitely for your sake that I am doing that, but there's nothing wrong with that. With some of my students, I have to do that because it really, encourages them to do the right thing. Here, let's get a good knife.
Then, why did you change knives?
There was dull.
Adam,
Yes, because the other knife was just dull. It needed to be sharpened.
the one with the disposable blade?
No. This one is always pretty good. It's not as controllable as a better knife.
Okay.
It
Not as
works.
heavy.
It's not quite as controllable.
Okay.
Okay.
Vic, is this how you would scrape your reeds normally? He's gone to the back a lot earlier than I've been showing you guys that I do it. I stay on the tip for a long time. Is this, Vic, how you would have normally finished your modern reeds?
That's how I used to do it until I started doing the complete activated tip. It's about 10 years ago.
I mean, it's fine.
I used to do it this way.
I used to do that too. It goes in waves with me. Sometimes, right now, I just think getting the spine in is important. And I'm not taking tons and tons. I'm just putting in it's sort of hard to see. I'm just putting in a basic spine. Can you see there's a spine there?
Keep rotating it a little bit, Adam, then we can see the shadows a bit more. Yeah, there we go.
The light,
Yeah.
please.
Oh yeah, now we see it.
Adam, can we see it through the light, please?
Yes.
He's made my life really easy, you guys. It's all through the same. I don't have to change the screen. He changes the camera. Your tip is quite thick still, right?
Yeah. It's not playable. Just put a spine in. That's it. Now notice the rails are still all the way up. The rails on the side of the reader there are still there. All the way up to the tip.
Is it
So
still dry?
effectively,
Is
sorry,
it still, I'm sorry, is it still dry or is it moist or is it wet?
It's moist. I just sort of moistened it.
Thank you.
I just sort of continually dipping the reed as I go. Let me switch back to my other camera here.
I
so
call it.
effectively right now it's a two-step read. You have a tip and a very long back, but there's no real heart.
There's no heart, and the tip is way too thick to even think about doing anything. Now, for everyone's benefit, I'll just mark it in. I could generally do this just by eye, but if you really want to, you can measure everything out. And I actually have a little ruler. Again, Vic has seen this. If I can find it. Oh, I think Wesley walked off with it. One of my kids walked off with it. Basically, I put in the parts at very predictable places. So the back of my heart is at 61, so I'll just mark that. Okay. The heart itself is a box, so it's going to be at about 67, 68. Yeah. And I know I'm going to have the roof of the house here. Yeah. And I'm going to cut it off around 69 or 70. So then I put in some measurements. Yep. So the very first thing I'm going to do here is get the tip moving.
It doesn't pip yet, right?
No, it doesn't peep yet. It will very soon. I promise. And actually, before I even start, I'm just going to sharpen the knife real fast. How many people have started a tip and then torn the corners right off with a dull knife?
Oh, that never happens to me.
Oh, never.
How many people have never torn the tip corner off?
I'm gonna stay on mute for a while.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the tip working. So I'm doing a 45-degree angle from that line forward towards the corners. And notice I'm scraping all the way onto the plaque. Not stopping short, I'm going all the way. I destroy a lot of plaques. It doesn't matter, they're only $1, right? But the force that I'm applying is really along the side of the reed. It's not. It's if I'm saying where is my force, it's along the side rail of the tip, not in the middle. And Mr. Mack used to. It's sort of dumb. He used to wear these really awful polyester golf pants. You know, like the green plaids, just terrible. No fashion sense at all. But he would take his knife and he would clean it on his pant leg, and then he'd get these little gouge or cuts in the polyester, so all his pants were shredded.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just working on that corner, work on the corner, do the same thing here, start back at the line, pull forward all the way, really, really follow through. If you don't follow through, you're going to build up a ridge on your tip, and it's going to stop things from vibrating. Okay, and let's do the other side. And again, I don't really need to mark this. Sorry, I'm put the camera in the right place. And of course, if you're a righty, you tend to do more, depending on if you're right or left-handed, you'll do more on one side or the other. One of my teachers in university was Grover Schultz, who was an English horn player in Chicago. And he used to joke that I should do the right side of the reed and he would do the left.
I got a great tip from one of my teachers. Maybe it was Marilee Klimp. I don't remember who it was. I'm right-handed, so lift up the elbow when you're doing the left side.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes a big difference. Just making sure where the elbow is.
Okay, now at this point, I think, was it Beata, I think, asked, does the reed peep? Actually, at this point, it probably should peep. Let's see. Let's see where we are. Let me get it. It's a little dry, so. Yeah, it peeps. Yeah, cool, huh?
Nice.
And it peeps, and I haven't actually done anything. I just made a tip. And if I put it back on the camera, let's take a look through the backlight. See where we are. Oh, come on, Adam.
There's a few things that we can't see. Are you controlling the tension of the opening at all when you're off camera? Or is
No.
this reed was already fairly closed when you started on it?
It was pretty closed.
Okay. And that
Okay.
other one, would you have had to have been pressing it a little bit to train the opening?
Okay, so what you notice is it's not actually symmetrical yet. There's more out to the left side than the right. This side's a little bit better. I'm sorry, it's not perfectly in focus. It's really hard to get. There we go. But I think you can see well enough that there's a tip. It's great. It's somewhat graded, not graded enough. And there's no windows yet. There's just a spine the whole way. Yeah? Okay. So let's go back to our document camera. So does it peep? Does it crow? No, well, not really. It sounds like a duck. It's really not going, which means we have to start clipping it back. Before I do that, I want to define where that heart is. So there's my 61 mark. And I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna put in full windows. I'm just gonna take a few swipes out of the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and stop. Now notice I'm not making a score mark, and I'm not making a big gouge there. I'm just stopping the knife so that there's a separation between heart and back. And it might make a line, that's okay. Some people will actually score something in. I don't do that. I think it stops the vibrations too much. But all you want to do is take a little bit of cane out of the channels of the back just to begin to define that area and what it looks like. And again, whatever you do on one side, do on the other. Try to make it as symmetrical as possible. Symmetry is important, although sometimes not as much as we might think. Okay, so I've got a bit of a heart going. We go back to our other camera. Hello. Yeah, you can see it. There is some light in the back.
Mm.
Okay, it's a little bit tough to see, but it is there. But it's not what I would call full American windows yet. Now, it may never get there. This piece of cane is looking a little bit on the soft side, and it's already crowing sort of low.
I swear he was squeezing it right there. You were squeezing it, weren't you?
No, I was squeezing it open.
Okay, yeah, but you were squeezing it.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't, if I'm doing it, Jeanine, it's not conscious. I just do it sort of automatically.
I know, but I think that's so important because if you don't have the right tension in the reed, you're not getting any sort of the right readings. You'll start to scrape cane,
Yeah.
trying to make the reed do something. And I noticed,
Oh,
I noticed I'm doing that too with my students. When I'm off camera, I'm squeezing the reed one way or another to control the tip, and that makes a huge difference on how I would actually scrape it then.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so I've clipped it back a little bit, and here's really the interesting thing. So does it still peep? Does it crow? Yeah, that's a C actually. Now it's a little rattly, but this is what I would consider to be a basic reed. It's got a tip, a heart, it's some transition zone, and the beginnings of windows. And I would probably just put this away at this point, rather than try to finish it. Let it, soak it up, let it dry once overnight, and then I would go try to finish. The tip,
Adam,
yes,
how many millimeters do you have left to the final length?
probably 1.
Okay.
I think this is at 71, or I can go anywhere between 70 and 69 for American scrape.
Mm-hmm.
What was your tip start at, Adam?
I don't know. Let's measure.
Well, no. When you marked, didn't you measure that? You measured your back.
Yeah, it started at 60. It started at 68.
No. Sorry. When you the rooftop.
The rooftop started at 67.
67. Okay.
Yeah.
65 is my magic number.
Okay.
Okay. Adam and I have come to the 67 number independently.
Yeah.
Well, this is still a bit long. It's about 71 and a half. So I've got about almost 2 millimeters to play with as I would begin to clip this back. The one thing that I would do before I put this away is the crow is still really rattly. So I would begin to clip little bits back off until I get something that's a little bit more stable. So let's clip a little bit. Hey, that might even play.
How much did you squeeze it while we weren't looking?
No, I didn't. I swear I didn't. That's not bad already. It's sort of okay, I certainly wouldn't play on this in public, but it's got a decent sound. It peeps, it crows, it plays high, it plays low. It's a little raucous, sounding just because the tip is too thick and the corners aren't thin enough. But that's probably what I would do is I'd let it rest, and then tomorrow I'd come back and I'd make a lot more gradation from the tip, from the heart to the very, very tip. I want those corners on the micrometer to measure slightly less than 0.01. And the micrometer is your friend. If you don't own one of these, buy one.
0.01. Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's not, it's actually not that. European reeds tend to be that on the very, very corners.
In my experience, they are usually a little thicker,
It
but
can be, I mean, it depends. So yeah, that's yeah, 0.1.
0.1.
Sorry, not 0.01.
Not point, 0.1, not 0.01.
Yeah, 0.1.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It's like,
0.01.
wow. Oh, you got to show me your knife skills.
No, I could not
That's-
do that. 0.1
They're
on the
point-
corner.
Janine, they're 0.01 at his vanishing point.
Yes.
Right, at the
And then,
vanishing
so
point.
what I'm looking for is that, and then the middle of the heart on an American reed would be 0.48. This one's 4.5, so that's pretty good. The transition on the side should be about 0.42, or sorry, the channels of the heart should be about 0.4 or 0.42. This one's a little thin. I think I'd count this piece of cane a little thin, which is why it's so flexible. And then about 0.3 on the side, so it's a little thick. Here's a key. The windows should be about 0.4 or so. I don't go a lot. Some people really go to town on the American windows and they're like 0.25. I think that's just too thin. And especially on English horn, never more less than 0.4 on the window. So what I would do to finish this guy, and I want to make sure I'm looking at the time. I want to finish a European scrape, or I want to scrape a European scrape and then finish it, and that I can do pretty fast. I'm actually faster on a German scrape reed than an American, if that makes any sense at all.
so Adam, did you
yeah.
you did all of this on a moist reed? Not
Yes, slightly moist. I started dry and just kept wetting it up.
now. When you were going to finish it, would you soak it or would you just keep dipping it?
Yeah, I would start dry and I would soak it for, 30 seconds. Because I think that the tip planes much nicer if the cane is somewhat dry. You get a better finish. But, as I work on it, so I would just do more. I would do this. I would go up the sides and the corners. And just by finishing, making this
Come up just
gradation.
a little bit. Come up with just, there you go.
Just by making this gradation a little bit nicer, and again, a really sharp knife, and leaving the middle, working towards my corners. And you can brush the very tip a little bit in case there's a ridge.
Adam, you're basically at sea level, right?
Yeah, oh, I'm absolutely, I can see the sea from my window, yes.
Okay. The other thing is you're West Coast sea level, so you tend to be drier relative humidity than East Coast sea level, right?
Correct. It's usually like 60-70% humidity here. It's not terribly humid in the summer.
Okay. So I think that's something we need, we East Coasters especially, Christine, and I have to bear in mind when we hear, like you're saying dry, it's really dry for us, especially summer in comparison. So in summer, I find that I can almost get away sometimes without ever soaking a reed, and I can play it dry because there's so much relative humidity.
Okay,
But when I was
now-
in Alberta and it was dry, no chance.
60 or 70%? It's 20% humidity here right now.
Oh my. Well, it's all relative. The East Coast of the United States is like 90% in the summer all the time. So now let me talk about the back. Rather than taking a lot out of the back to begin with, I use that as an adjustment. If the reed were super tight and I was only getting that top octave, I would begin to take more out of the window. Since this cane is pretty soft for whatever reason and it's pretty closed, I don't need to. But if I were only getting that peep and I wanted to get more lower octave, I wanted to get that second octave speaking, that's where I would begin to take from the channels. But on this particular one, I don't need to do it. So I view the window depth as an adjustment rather than as an integral part of the design, if that makes any sense at all. That prevents you from taking too much. If you take too much out of here, especially on the Luray, what happens to your G's and your F sharps, folks? They get wobbly. They get flat.
Wonky.
They get wonky if you take too much out there. And especially on the AK Luray model, it is super sensitive because of the bore design. It's super sensitive to the F sharp being flat. So well, I used to play an AK, and that's why I started like taking almost nothing out of the back, just to push those up. But it's a good thing to do it as an adjustment rather than as a, matter of course.
Adam,
Okay.
Adam,
So
would you have scraped those windows on your wider reed?
on a wider one,
Opening?
it depends. I mean, it depends. What I do is I try to respond to what the cane is doing. And yes, I'm squeezing. Okay, that's a better crow. So I thin the tip in the corners and I cut it back, and now I have a B octave. That's pretty good. And basically what I'd be doing now is I'd be looking for balance. So balance left to right. And it's sort of hard to see, but I've taken more out of the right side than the left. I would let it dry, but I'd go back and I'd make sure that the gradation is correct and that it's balanced left to right. And that it looks pretty good. And notice I've left the bark on this very side of the heart. Now, on a European reed, you would never, ever do that because the thing wouldn't vibrate. But on an American scrape reed, which is fairly narrow, and especially because this cane is soft, you have to do that to maintain the opening. And when I look at that, that's actually a pretty healthy opening. I like that now. And I wouldn't take that off unless the opening was huge or I just wasn't getting any vibration in from the lower octave. If I took a ton out of the back and I still wasn't getting that lower octave, I would take the bark off the sides of the heart to help transmit the vibration back. Let me play this reed and see what it sounds like. So it's a little flat and flabby. What do you do? You tell me. It's flat and flabby. What do we do? Well,
Clip it.
you clip it. Much better. Yeah, it's just new and kind of resistant. I think the best thing for me to do would be to let it dry, come back and refine the tip again, and then just clip it back until it gets up to pitch. It's a bit long. I think this is like 71 now. It's at, it's like 71. It's just a bit long. So I would refine the tip, make sure it's balanced, and sort of clip it back until I got to about 70, and I'd probably be pretty good at that point. Yeah, it wants to be a bit flat. It's a bit long. Okay. So let's look at the European scrape reed and how we finish it. Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, so here is the one we profiled to begin with. Let's see if I might probably have to go to the other camera. Let's go to the other camera. Oh, let me move this oboe out of the way. Okay, everybody see it?
Yes.
Yep.
This came off the profiler pretty well. It's got a spine, it's got a heart, it's got a tip, but it has the same problems. It's not balanced left to right. This side over here is heavier. and the gradation to the corners is not very good. So let's fix the problems. And a lot of what we do when we take something off the profiler is exactly that. It's just to fix the problems, the things that you can identify visually that aren't right. You know, when you have on European script reads with American players, there is a heart, sort of, and it looks. I mean, you've got your. I'll just draw on here. You've got a round arc usually. Sometimes it's the roof, but it tends to be rounder on the German reads. There is a spine-ish that sort of goes like this. Is that fair enough, Jeanine? That's usual.
I'm seeing what Angelica is going to say to this, if this is how her reads look. Is that how the spine looks, Angelica, for you?
Perhaps a little smaller, but like this.
Yeah, it's a bit big, but that's the idea. And then there's this sort of back area. And basically, the adjustment process is very similar. So I'm looking for, first of all, does the tip respond? So let's wet this up and see. We've got dry. Not really, it doesn't peep. So what should I do?
Tip.
Tip. Now you have to be careful because on a European read, there's not so much tip to deal with. See, it's only about 2 millimeters, not even.
Do you use the same knife strokes or a different knife technique?
Really same, but really careful, really controlled. Look what I do. I put the thumb there so I can't go back too far. Because what I don't want to do is mess up that transition zone that the profiler put on so beautifully. That's, you know, the advantage of the profiler is it can make that transition, which to do by hand is quite hard. So by using the thumb as a backstop, I can just get my corners going. And also, the tip is just too thick. And it'll be about the same. It'll be about the 0.1, yeah? That's what I usually end up doing. I'll take, you know, I don't know what the other European players are doing so much. Jeanine, do you have an idea about 0.1, 0.12?
Yeah, sometimes they're a little thicker, amazingly. I would always expect they would be even thinner because they have to speak as willingly as the long scrape reeds do with their longer tips. But something else about the way the reed resonates allows it to respond quickly in spite of being thicker.
Yeah, I agree.
I can measure one that I have upstairs and give you the exact.
There's something about it. You're right. It's these tiny little short tips that you think wouldn't work, but they do because it gets the entire reed vibrating somehow. Okay, so let's get that. That looks about right. Now let's see if we can get a peep. It peeps. It's not great, but it peeps. I'll do a little bit more. But I really want to get that going. If it's not going, you know, there's no point. Nothing's going to work. Oh. Okay, I think that's about right. And I think that should be. So it does peep. Okay, so now they go. The next, see, now you can actually see that. You see the transition?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the other question is, so does it crow? No, it doesn't. It doesn't crow at all. So the very first thing that I would do on this is, I happen to know, because I've measured it many times, is that the sides are still too thick. So many European players, what they would do at this point is they would take from the channels there, and there. And I believe that's correct, but I'm also going to take a little bit off the side. And it's watching my time here. I do want to do the rough scrape on European. So let me take a little bit off the channels, leaving the middle alone. And I'm also going to take a little bit off the side just to get it to vibrate.
But is this a European gouge or the American gouge?
No, this is a European gouge. This is the stuff. 11.41 millimeter gouge in the middle. So that's the 11.41 millimeter blade, which is European. The American one is the 11.2.
I just measured that European scrape from Frida that he sent me. It is exactly 1 on all 4 corners.
Yep.
0.1.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
about right. That's about right. Okay, so I'm taking off from the channels just to get the thing to vibrate, right? That's all that we're after here. Okay. Does it crow? Yes. Okay, so that was the right thing to do. Now, what I can say is that it's a little bit flat. I know I'm going to have to clip it, but I'm also not getting enough low vibration. It's pretty, I'm getting the octave, but I want to free the thing up. So on an American reed, you take from the windows, right? On a European reed, you take from here and here. Right before the U, those 2 little points on either side of the hump. This is where you take to free things up. It's equivalent. It is as if those were the windows. A little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. Now, I bet you I'm going to have to come back tomorrow and just go over the whole thing because it's just heavy all over. So let's just give it basically, you know the term a light dusting? Let's just give the whole thing a light dusting to bring it down evenly. I bet you will get our pro. It's a bit rough, but again, if I were to let it sit and tomorrow come back, I think it'd be good. Let's try it on the oboe. Not bad. Sort of okay, serviceable, you know.
It's amazing. He sounds like Adam. If he's playing a short scrape or a long scrape, he still sounds like Adam.
Yeah, but pretty much. It's not exactly the same. Like where did that good? Damn, I hope I didn't lose it. I had a really good American scrape reed here. Oh, here it is. There's a little bit of a difference. I sounded a bit darker, or not darker. I sound a bit more flexible on the American. Here. A little more flexible. But you're right. I mean, people sound like they sound. I don't think the equipment, I mean, it has some bearing, but this is effectively a finished day 1 read. I would put it aside, come back tomorrow, blend a little bit more on that transition zone, make my corners a little thinner. Right now, the lay is about 11 millimeters. No, it's exactly 10. For my level of comfort, I would bring it back to 11 or 12, but that's just me.
Would you do that on the machine or by hand?
No, I just do it by hand. I would just lengthen the lay a little bit. You know, just a little bit. And I think that it makes for a more flexible read, but it's completely up to you what you decide to do. Now I would come back tomorrow and finish it. And this is actually looking pretty darn good. All right, we just have time for me to do a European scrape from scratch. Would you like to see it?
I think I'd rather see a Baroque read, but you're probably not set up to do that, are you?
I can be.
There are 2 things I'd be curious to see, but this is more about the other people here. So I would be interested to see how you shape the cane and tie it on so that you get that amazing seal.
Okay.
And the Baroque read, but we just can't do all of it.
Yeah.
What else did you guys want to see, Christine or
we can do a tie on. You want to do it? We only have about 10 minutes, so you want to tie a blank, and I'll show you my tie technique.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you shape the cane too, because I think that the texture of these sides also plays a role in this good seal, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't soak up any unshaped cane. This was done on the Reeds and Stuff machine, but I do use a regular hand shaper most of the time because I have.
Angelica, you have a question?
May I ask something? Am I right? You have developed a shape. I've read Shapiro and I thought
Yeah,
you
that's me. That's
yeah.
that's my shaper.
How did you do the measures?
Oh, yeah. Basically, what I did was I there's a little bit of a story around this. Not probably at least 10 years ago, I was talking with Wash, well, a mutual friend of Vic's and I, who was a very, very fine Baroque oboist. He played in Tafelmusik. And he always hand shaped everything. And look, I'm a gadget guy, and I just don't have the patience to hand shape anything. And I just thought, why don't we just make a shaper tip for for Baroque oboe because it'll just be easier. And so I made a whole bunch of reeds, and Wash made a whole bunch of reeds, and we sort of picked two that looked really good. And then I just sent them to Udo Heng, and he basically cop or he we, I mean, we made the reeds, but then what I did was we hand shaped some cane, and we sort of agreed that we had two pieces that looked pretty much like we wanted. Took those measurements, averaged them, sent them to Udo, and he made the tip for us. That's sort of the story of that one. I have another one coming out. It's for classical oboe, and it's a collaboration between me and Chris Palmetta, which look for it in the catalog. It's coming. All right, should we do tie demonstration?
If you've got time, we'd love that.
I do have time. Okay, so here's some shaped cane. Let me get some thread out. Okay, so I've already soaked these, and I've already taken a little bit of cane. No, I didn't actually off the ends, off the tangs, so that this will lay nice and flat under the wrapping. And this is marked. You can see it's marked USA. Well, you can't really see it. USA. So this is on my Gilbert gouger. It's a thicker gouge. It has thicker sides because with American reeds, if you don't do that, they just collapse. Okay. Get a couple of these going. And I think this is the Mac++ shape. I go back and forth. I like this one. I like the Joshua +2. I like the real Brannon X from way back in the day. And then the Gilbert -1 is always a good standby. It's very similar to a lot of the European shapes, and you can even make European reeds on a Gilbert 1. Probably, yeah, regular Gilbert 1 for European scrape works beautifully. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I've already scored this and folded it. When I do it on the machine, after I do it on the long machine, I always come back with the knife, score, and immediately fold while it's still wet, so that I don't have a trouble later finding that middle point. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll fold it over, and I have it exactly aligned, but then I'm going to slip just slightly top blade to the right, so there's a little bit. See it?
Yes.
Okay, and hold it. Then I take some good old Gutermann, cotton sewing thread, and right in the middle, just wrap it. And this is equivalent to what David does with the wire, effectively. It's something to hold the reed together while you're tying it. I think it really does help quite a bit. I haven't really experimented with the hot mandrel yet. I got to try that.
Angelica's husband is making one for me.
Perfect.
When you come in September, you can stay with me and we'll try it out.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope I'm going to be able to come in September. They no Americans allowed yet.
I'm flying with my son on July 4th and returning in the end of July, but we're
Resident.
legal on both sides. So
Yeah. So if I can come, I'm going to come.
what's going on in September?
Oh, I just want to see some friends, to be
Okay.
honest. Nothing very exciting.
That's
Uh,
very exciting. Seeing friends, that's about as exciting as it gets.
yeah, no, it is. But and if the opera was in season, it would be wonderful because I don't know if you guys know this. Frankfurt has this lovely repertory opera company, and it's a lot of young singers, and they're fabulous. If you ever get a chance, go. I'm sure
Which opera company?
the Frankfurt is wonderful.
The Opera Museumsorchester?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I play with them sometimes when they do the Baroque operas.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're terrific. But and just in the opera house itself, they always have really nice.
It's
Yeah,
a very, they win awards all the time.
yeah, very
They're
good.
fabulous.
And they tend to have a lot of very young singers, which I think is great too. It gives them it's opportunities. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see what I'm gonna do here. You see my hands?
Yep.
Okay, I need a staple. Ah, my box of staples here. All right, and a mandrel. So this is just this is a crap staple. I'm not going to use it. I bought a whole bunch of these cheapy Pisoni's, not Prestini staples to use with students, and they're terrible. Give them away.
What's terrible about them?
They're inconsistent. The metal is too thick. The tip openings are not consistent. It's just really poor quality.
They're lumpy junk.
Sorry?
They're lumpy junk.
There they are. So here's a chud nose. I'll use that because that is a good staple. It fits my mandrel. I'm happy with this. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on this shape. I use 25 exposed rather than 27. So I mark with a ruler. You can see I put a little pencil mark at 25 exposed. For wider shapes, it's 27. It just depends on the shape. You have to know where that tie point is. From experience, I can tell you that's where it is. If I were to measure this distance across with the micrometer, it would be 5.3 millimeters.
Quick question there, Adam. Did you
Yeah.
measure that 25 from the fold on the outside?
Yes.
Okay, because for a lot of years, I wondered about where people were measuring that from, because if you measure it on the inside of the fold, 25 is like, it makes it almost a millimeter longer.
Yeah.
And
Well,
nobody actually ever says where they'll say where they measure the once it's tied, but that's kind of too late.
well, I'm going to play with that anyway, so I'm not so concerned. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mount it on the staple, and you see that it effectively holds all by itself with that thread. I don't have to play with it. Some people use, dental rubber bands. Those are fine, or parafilm, that's fine, or the wire is fine. Just something so that I can position it and check. I'm checking that the ellipse of the reed lines up with the flat of the mandrel. It doesn't, so I have to kind of adjust it. And you can kind of see that it's hard to see, but you'll have to trust me that it does.
It already has the slipped formation
Yeah.
right now.
It's already slipped. It's slipped when it's tied. It's slipped when it's bound here. Okay, now I'm going to do something that I learned from Jeanine. If your cane is particular, so I'm going to grasp it. And normally, what I would phooey, don't drop your thread.
Give me a question. Are we seeing the sides the other way around?
It might be reversed. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. So did you slip it to the towards the left or towards the right?
Slip the top blade to the right.
Okay. So yeah, thank you.
Maria, you're right-handed, right?
Yes, yes, I am.
That would be the correct slippage for you too.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I've got it all lined up. It's straight. It's on rate. It's on axis with the opening of the tube. I'm going to go ahead and grasp it. And normally, what I would do is I would start with some very. I'm really trying to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. I'd start with some loose loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, just very loose, maybe 5.
Adam, move to your left, please.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. And
Perfect.
I begin to pull. And with these loose loops, and if I begin to pull, hopefully the cane won't crack. It should begin to close, and you can see that it does. I'm going out of range with the camera,
We
unfortunately.
can still see you for now. Now you're off.
Okay, but you see it's almost closed just by pulling. Check the other side. That's not the same. So I'm going to have to sort of go back and readjust. And I want to get the cane centered enough, I have to kind of pull it. So let the tension up so that it closes evenly on both sides. And sometimes you have to try a couple of times, right? That looks good. That looks good. Go back, make sure that it's still straight. Now, here's a trick that Jeanine taught me, which is that if you don't think it's going to close, you can kind of go up here a little bit and like way past where the tube is and just do some gentle wraps and see what happens. It sort of coerces it down.
Christine taught us a term for this. She calls it canoeing, but I don't think she made up the term. You put the link on there for where you got that. It was these something to crow about gals, right?
Correct. And they go all the way up to the top. And then they, yeah, they go all the way up to the top and then come down. Yeah.
Okay, so, and then I undo that, and you see it's basically closed. And all I want to do to get up to that pencil mark now is to roll. So, again, I might have to readjust my camera because...
You're good for now.
I'm just going to roll. I'm going to roll the reed toward me. And that moves the whole wrap up to just where my pencil mark is, which is about a 0.5 millimeter below the end of the staple. Then I do my crossover and pull tight and wrap down. And I bet you it is perfectly sealed. And thank you for the canoeing tip. That is awesome. And it also helps prevent the cane from cracking. I think that's just a wonderful tip.
I thought I made it up, so it's cool that someone independently also was doing it. I do it a little bit differently than Christine learned it from those gals.
Okay, so here's my notes. I do 2 half inches. So on the spool side, make a loop, twist with my fingers over the top, and then pull tight, and then I do just exactly the same thing, make a loop, twist with my 2 fingers inside the loop, over the top of the reed, pull tight.
Who taught you that knot?
God knows. I have no idea. I've just been doing it. I've been doing it since I was 12 years old, so I really don't know. Probably Dan Stolper, of all people, who just passed, by the way.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, now, so let's see if I'm honest here. I'm going to back to my regular camera, so you can stop looking at my fuzzy legs here.
It's 9 minutes past. I just want to make sure you're okay for your meeting.
I'm okay until 1/4 after. And then
Okay.
does it seal? Up.
Ha!
Haha.
Bravo! A big applause for Adam. They're all muted, so...
Yeah, so I've got 4 minutes. Any last questions before I have to drop off?
Do you find that the number of blanks that you tie on, like I think about 49 out of 50 seal when I do it. Is that like you? Like very few that do not seal, and it's usually a factor if the cane wasn't.
It's usually that it wasn't shaped properly or that it was improperly gouged and one side's too thin.
Yeah, I wonder if that's an inherent thing with the American gouge, the thicker sides gouge, and the slipping, the overlap. That as long as you tie it and that the shape is good, it seems much more prone to sealing.
Yeah, I don't really have that much trouble with sealing blanks, but I know a lot of people do. And I think it's even important. I mean, everything goes for Baroque as well. It's the same process. Just the scrape is different. I do something a little bit different on my Baroque reeds than I think Jeanine does, and a lot of people. I make more of a teardrop-shaped heart that tapers into the spine towards the back. But essentially, it's the same. All these same techniques apply. I think. Maria, looks like you're going to go to sleep now.
And she's got a question.
I'm so relaxed here. I just feel like I'm watching a movie. Why do you do the heart differently? Why do you do the tear shape?
Ah, okay. I will show you why.
I hope your meeting in 4 minutes is on Zoom, so you don't have to get in your car and drive somewhere.
It's fine. Let me just get this reed wet, and I will show you exactly why I do it. Okay, remember, look, I'm all about functionality, right? Everything's got to work.
Yes.
And on Baroque oboe, it is all about the octaves. Yeah? If you can't make octave transfer, you are dead in the water. Well, the reason I do the teardrop shape is that it causes the reed to collapse from the corners of the tip into the middle very rapidly.
Remember our G location and our C location and our...
So, and as a result, well, it's a dry reed. I shouldn't, Let's see if I can make it work. Give me 1 second, just let it soak up. The reason I do it is so that I can get my octaves. And for me, that's sort of the key core skill of Baroque oboe playing is the ability to do octave transfer. And what I found was that teardrop shaped heart really facilitates that. And also they tend to be nice and dark. They tend to be fairly flexible, fairly easy. I don't believe in blowing your brains out. Oh, this sounds like a duck. Give me a second, guys. Give me 1 second.
Eater on the wolf.
I could listen to him for another hour and a half, you guys.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, here. I just needed a little hot water to get this reed to open. But, so because of that teardrop shaped heart, I can do this. I can make the octave transfers absolutely seamlessly, and the G and the A will just pop right out. Well, if you're warmed up, but it's the same reason you can play Mozart quartet on this. You can do because of that teardrop shape, the reed collapses properly, and I can make the transfers that I need to. You can really. It just facilitates that so much more easily. That's why.
Good. I'll give it a try. Thank you.
All right. So I want to wish everybody a great morning. I'm on to a meeting that I don't want to go to.
Oh, Adam, it's been such a pleasure. I hope you can join us for a few minutes tomorrow at our party. If you're...
Yeah. What time does it start?
Same time as this. It starts a half hour earlier than you started today, but
Okay,
it goes for 2 hours. So we'd be very pleased to have you. And Christine, you're invited also. I need to make sure that you get the link. It's not this link, it's a different link. So you're welcome to join us also if you're available. We're just gonna play for each other, and I've got a few fun things planned, so bring your sense of humor. And Beata's gonna show up in person, I think, and maybe we get to play a little something together. But thank you so much, Adam.
Thank
all of
Very,
us.
very welcome. It's really a pleasure. It's so much fun. I hope you found it valuable. It's hard to compress all of this into an hour and a half, but maybe we'll have that opportunity to do again sometime.
Absolutely.
It was fun. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Right.
Okay, everybody. So any questions about tomorrow? It's
So different link tomorrow?
It's the normal dynamic read maker link. That's why it's different for Christine and for the Oboe Read Masters. So I'll make sure that everybody has that ahead of time.
And what time is it?
For you, help me out, Vic. Same time as for you, 11 o'clock, right? Oh, he hung up. No, he's still there. It's
11 for me.
It's 11 for you, Christine, and for Vic, it goes 2 hours, so you can pop in and out. It's not, there's, this is party, and it's bring your own booze. Except Beate, you're my guest, so.
I bring something too.
And yeah, we'll just relax. And I do want to cover a few of the, I know you guys won't mind that Christine is there. We'll cover a few wrap-up things about our frogs from the Dynamic Read Maker so that we really wrap it up. So there'll be a little bit of planned stuff so that we have good closure with the 10 weeks that we spent together making reads, but a lot of enjoying ourselves. So Christine, if you have a read you particularly like that you're very proud of in a small phrase or a short piece you'd like to play for us, please feel free. Nobody is forced to, but we're really friendly. So we would be very happy if you would also contribute to our joyful noises tomorrow.
Thank you. I have
Okay.
at 11:30, so I may not be able to make it, but if I can, I will.
Okay, great. We look forward to it. We have 11, so yeah, do what you can. This is just a bonus. And the rest of you, any questions?
No, I'll send you some notes later. It's okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Tomorrow? Yes.
That's great. Oh, now my computer's freaking out again. Okay, y'all are still there though. Okay.
Normal. Send notes to Jeanine.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
Okay, everyone. Thanks very much. That was fun. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.